besties! If you're new here, my name is Lexi and this is my booktube channel. So in this video, we are going to give YA a second chance. Now I've seen a lot of videos out there where booktubers give authors they don't like a second chance, but I decided to give a whole genre a second chance. I said this before my channel, I don't read YA, I don't like YA anymore, it's not for me, I'm not in my YA era. But honestly, when I started to think about it, I can't remember the last YA book that I read that put me off on YA. So I decided let's just give YA a second chance. Now I've selected 3 books to read for this video. The first book I selected is Iron Widow, and what really sold me on this one is that it is a revenge story set in this Asian inspired world where we have people that get into kind of transformer-like machines to fight in a war, and that just kind of hooked me right away. I'm here for stories where women get their due and they get revenge on the people that have wronged them. This is why I want to pick up this book. It's just attracting me. I'm just here for ladies getting what they want. Second book that I'm gonna pick up, which is more of a safe bet for me, is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. Now this will be a reread for me. I read this book I think when it first came out in like 2015 or 2016 is when I read this book, and this is a book that I have fond memories of reading. It is about these 2 twin sisters, Kath and Ren, and they go off to college, and one of the sisters want to kind of explore and adventure out on their own, thinking college is a new place to kind of do things different, meet new people, have life experience, and then the other twin just wants to stay in her own world, in her own fantasy land. She writes fan fiction, and she would like everything to stay the same, and she has a bit of anxiety about her college experience. And I remember reading this a long time ago and falling in love with the story. I remember relating to this book a lot, but it's been a while since I've read it, so I want to give this reread. This is going to be more of a safe bet because I already know that I like this book. When I read it for the first time, I gave it 5 stars, so I already knew that I'm going to like this book. It's just, does it hold up? Is this something that my 30-something-year-old self is going to like? And then the last book that I want to read in this video series is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is a book that I've heard of before, and I do own the special edition copy of it. I bought it off this one random website a while ago. I bought it purely because of how it looks. The book is velvet on the cover. This is purely, that's a beautiful book. I want it. I gotta have it. And I bought it without knowing anything about this book. But I do know that it's set within the land of like the Fae or the fairies. We have sisters whose parents were murdered when they were young and they were taken to the land of Fae. And while they're there, they're trying to navigate the court system, try to belong in the land of fairy. I've read a couple of fairy books recently, and the first one being Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and the other one being Half a Soul. And I like both of those books. I think I gave Half a Soul 4 stars, and I know I gave Emily Wilde 5 stars. So I'm just feeling like, let's try some fairy again. Let's try that again and see if the YA version of it is something that I'm gonna like. This is what I'm gonna pick up in this video, and my dog is freaking out here. We're gonna get started, and I will check in with you guys later. The first book that I decided to pick up in this Giving YA a Second Chance video is Iron Widow. I have already started and finished reading this book. I meant to give you guys an update a lot earlier, but I had a lot going on. I was moving that weekend. I was packing and moving stuff with my family into the new apartment. And as you can tell here, the background is still the same. In this place that I'm recording, I'm normally recording at my mom's house. But now that I have my bookshelves and my book collection back, I will start recording at the apartment. But I just wanted to think about how I want to set up my bookshelves before I actually start recording there. I also want to record me organizing my bookshelves, hauling and unhauling my books, and then once that's done, we can start recording at the new place. But this is just where it's going to be for a while. But I've started and finished Iron Widow. What I would like to say about Iron Widow is that it is badass. We are set in this Asian inspired world. I kind of think of it in China because our main character, Zetian, does mention that there's a Great Wall, but she never explicitly says that it is in China. So the women are being sold off to this military as concubines, where the men are driving these kind of transformer-like creatures or monsters or mechanisms, where they are able to use that to fight the Hundans, where it's these kind of like, these are the baddies in the books, and the women are sold off into the military because the machinery that they're operating has to feed off of your chi and off of your spirit energy. So they use the men's ability and their chi, and then the women's like spirit ability to be able to operate this machinery. But unfortunately, every time a woman is used to operate this piece of machinery, they will then die, where the man goes on to live. So we have our main character, Zetian, who decides she wants to be sold off into the military because her older sister did this. She's out to get revenge on the guy that drove that piece of machinery that then killed her sister. His name is Huang Guang, or Huang I'm messing this up, but that guy, he's the guy that ended up killing her sister. And in this world, the patriarchy is quite evil. I was like pissed off within the first like 20 pages of reading this book because the way that they treat women in this book, not right with me. We have Zetienne, who she don't give a fuck about anything. She doesn't care about her family. She doesn't care about her mom, dad, grandma, the men in this world. She is out for revenge and she doesn't give a fuck about what happens. We also discovered that she has this ability when she gets into the mechanism, she actually doesn't die when she's supposed to, when the guy's done operating this piece of machinery. So the military then goes to use her, thinking that she's going to become valuable to them. And she's set up with this guy. His name is Lexivanessabooks. He is a murderer that killed off his family. They kind of form a bond. We have a friend that Zetienne had from back home. His name is Yishi. I'm messing up all these names that I know it, but just know that there's a guy who's a friend. This book does turn out to be polyamorous, and I don't think that's a spoiler. I think it's told in the synopsis of this book when you read it on Goodreads or on the back of the book. I am loving it. I ended up giving this book 4 stars because there are a couple of plot twists along the way. It does stay relatively safe in terms of there's no overly explicit sexual scenes between Lexivanessabooks, Yishi, and Zetienne. But again, it is YA, and it is kind of like, I don't even want to say it's a love triangle, but it's the 3 of them in love with each other. This book is very presently YA. I mean, a lot of times when I was reading it, I was thinking like it would be a lot better if these characters were aged up a bit, and it was a bit distracting from the story. I think because I was reading this book while I was moving out of my apartment that I shared with the now ex-boyfriend. I'll make a whole video on that coming. I also was in a mode of like, I don't give a shit about you, ex-boyfriend, and I will be taking what I will be taking. That Zetienne kind of inspired me to kind of just be my own woman and just get what I want, and that's pretty much what I did during this move. The first book in this video, I ended up giving 4 stars. The next one that I'm gonna read is Fangirl, and let me show you. I do own the 10th anniversary special edition of Fangirl. Ignore this bookmark. I haven't even started reading it, but this is obviously gonna be a reread for me because I read it 10 years ago when it came out. So I'm excited to pick this one up and see if I still like it, because having read Iron Widow, I wasn't too bothered by the YA-ness of it. Hopefully I won't be bothered by this, but this is more like contemporary YA instead of being set in this fantasy world like Iron Widow was. Then I think the next book that I'm gonna pick up is The Cruel Prince, which I think is fantasy. I could be so wrong about that. I'm gonna start this today. Also have a lot going on today for work that I need to get done, and then I have a half day today because I had to deal with some other stuff outside of work that I just like decided to just take a half day, deal with it, get it over with, so that you don't have to like keep bothering with it. I'm gonna start this, so hopefully I can finish this kind of soon. I also have the audiobook for this that I got off Libby's. I'm gonna start reading Fangirl. I'm probably gonna do some of my work, and then I will start reading Fangirl later today, and then I'll check in with you guys once I am done with that. Guys, I just started reading Fangirl, and this is already bringing back so many memories for me. We start off meeting Kath and Ren, and they are twin sisters, so we're mainly following Kath. They're both going off to college, and Ren is a sister that wants to start new, look at college as an adventure, make new friends, step out of her comfort zone. Kath is more of, you know, I just want to keep things the same. Let's just, you know, be roommates like we were growing up for 18 years. And Ren is like, no, let's go on an adventure. Let's meet new people. Kath and Ren had just been dropped off to college by their dad. Kath and her dad decided to go out to get some food. And one of the comments that Kath made was that, like, why is it so white? Like, why is there not like a taco truck or a place that serves more like Hispanic food? And she said that she grew up in a prominently like people of color neighborhood, and that being at this college is making her feel like a fish out of water. I relate to that because I grew up in a predominantly Hispanic community, like a Hispanic, Black, and Asian community. And the high school that I went to, there was probably like 1 or 2 white kids in the class. It was mostly like Hispanic people. And so then when I went off to college, I was like, this is the most white people that I've ever seen in my entire life. I really relate to that, because I did actually feel like a fish out of water when I was in college, just having, you know, growing up in a different experience than most people did. So this book is just bringing back so many memories for me, and I am really liking it. So the adventure begins, and we're gonna going on this adventure. Hi, I'm back. Guys, I'm here to give you an update on Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I finished it last night. It's still a 5 stars for me. I love this book so much, and I am so fortunate to have the 10th anniversary edition of this book. I love this book with every fiber of my being. And when I was reading it last night, I decided to take some notes because there are some points that I want to discuss that will explain why I love this book so much. I think this book is highly relatable in many different ways. I mean, I think that anyone could pick up this book and relate to Kath or Ren or someone in this book. But specifically for me, I related to Kath. I think I mentioned earlier that I also grew up in a predominantly Hispanic community as Kath and Ren do, and then getting plopped down into a college setting where most of the people at college are white made me feel like a fish out of water when I was in college, and I really relate to that with Kath. The other thing that I relate to with Kath and Ren's relationship is that I have an older sister, and we were both in the same grade growing up, even though she was a year and a couple months older than me. I don't think I mentioned before, but I actually born and grew up overseas, and so when we moved to the United States and they were trying to place me and my older sister in our grade, they just like couldn't figure out where we should go, and so they just stuck us both in the same grade because we were both close in age. Ever since 3rd grade, people thought that my sister and I were twins because we were in the same grade. They thought we were twins, and we'd always be like, okay, no, we're not twins. Like, she's actually the older one, I am the younger one. Growing up with your sister in school with you does make it a bit difficult to kind of like become your own person, and people are always going to compare you to your sister or to your twin or whoever if you're in that same grade. My older sister is more of like, she made friends easier, she like had boyfriends, and I was very shy and withdrawn, and we didn't hang out in the same circle of friends growing up, so I felt really more like that I was Kath in this book, and I didn't really relate to Ren, but I could see my older sister relating to Ren. The other thing that I relate to with Ren is that she started out hating her college experience, and I hated my college experience. I hated being in college. I was constantly calling my mom to come pick me up. The college that I went to was only an hour and a half away from where I lived, so I was constantly calling my mom on weekends asking her to come pick me up because I didn't want to be at college and I hated it there. Also, I related to Ren with the roommate situation because my freshman year in college, I had 4 girls that were my roommates. I lived in an overflow dorm, and they just stuck the 5 of us together, and we had kind of like an apartment situation in that dorm room. We had our own bathroom, we had our own kitchen, living room, whatever. Sharing a room or a space with 4 other girls was tricky, and I ended up hating all those girls, and by the time freshman year was over, I was like, no, I want to have my single only dorm. I don't want to roommate with anyone ever again, and that is what I continue to do all of my college experience. Also, I had some extreme agoraphobia when I was in college, like especially my sophomore and senior year. I barely left my room. I barely went down to the cafeteria to eat. I really related to Kath because her experience in college is like, she doesn't want to try anything new, therefore she doesn't want to embarrass herself in front of other people by trying something new or being somewhere that she's not familiar with. So like, I really related to her like level of anxiety that way. Even when I was in college and I like was telling my friends that I didn't want to go out because I like, it's agoraphobia, they were like, you even know the word for it, girly. You don't like to leave your room. Rainbow Rowell wasn't really explicit about it, but the Simon Snow fanfic that Kath was writing, that's supposed to be kind of vaguely Harry Potter fanfic, or that's the way that I'm interpreting it. My younger sister and I, we read fanfic, we wrote fanfic growing up. I really related to like the sister relationship between Kath and Ren because I have an older sister that really embodies Ren, and then my younger sister really is more like so Kath with like the fanfic thing, and I just kind of felt in between. So this book just remains highly relatable to me, and I'm so glad that I reread this and still found a kinship with it. It really brought me back to like my love of reading. If you guys have been watching my videos this year, you would know that a lot of my reading this year has just been meh. There have been books that have just been fine. Not a lot of things have been impressing me lately, but this one, it really did stick to me. And now after rereading this book, the Read to Me Sweetheart thing makes a lot more sense. Even if you don't have like explicit like relatable like train or a trait to them, you will find something in this book to relate to. 5 stars for sure. I still love this book. I'm so happy to have this copy of it, and I will be keeping this, and I just love it so much. And so now that that's done, I think that I'm kind of on a roll. Like, Iron Widow was 4 stars, Fangirl, 5 stars. I am kind of on a roll with this giving YA a second chance video. And so the next book that I'm going to book up is actually A Cruel Prince by Holly Black. And this is the book that I have a copy of. I have a special edition of it where this is all felt, her, you know, velvet, if you can believe that. And I bought this special edition without even knowing what this book is because I thought I saw this and it was really beautiful. The front of it is giving. The back is also giving. So I'm really glad to have this copy. I just started this morning and I'm about 30 pages in to it, and I want to probably get to like maybe a third or maybe halfway through the book by the end today. I am physically reading this book because unfortunately the audiobook is on hold in Libby for like forever, and then Spotify is being nasty because it's telling me I have 4 more days to wait in order to listen to 15 hours in the month of March. Spotify Premium, you are kind of a fail with your audiobooks. Like, if I'm paying for it, like, just gimme. And if I'm speeding up the listening to my Spotify books, because I listen to books at 2 times speed, shouldn't it tell you that I'm listening to like less than 15 hours? I'm kind of upset with Spotify right now. That's beside this point. I'm only 30 pages into it, and so far what I've read I've liked. I am gonna keep reading today, and then I'll check in with you guys tomorrow to give you my thoughts on how far I've been able to make it. Also want to say I've never read a Holly Black book before, so this is really new reading territory for me. And so yeah, let's just get started with reading this book. I have nothing else to do today. It is a Sunday, so I'll check in with you guys later. Guys, I just started The Cruel Prince. As you can see, I have a really nice copy of the book, but I turn to this page and boom. As we know, I'm not a fan of Cassandra Clare, so therefore I'm already not liking this book. Okay, friends, I am halfway through The Cruel Prince. What I have gathered so far is that this book is about June, and she has a twin sister named Taryn and a younger sister named Vivian. Her parents were murdered when she was quite young by this fairy named Maddock. Apparently her mom was married to Maddock, but somehow like left and escaped and then got remarried to her dad, whose name I can't remember. They kind of like escaped away to the human world and where they raised their children, but they were very young when Maddock came to find the wife and then just killed the parents and took them away to the land of fairies. They've grown up in the land of the Fae. I think they're about like teenagers-y right now. June is trying to become one of them in a sense. Like she says in the book that you can't become or be accepted as an equal unless you marry a fairy or if you are skilled enough in something that they are willing to accept you in somebody's court. June and her twin sister Taryn, they are in school. I'm assuming that they're in high school and they're getting lessons. The other kids that they grow up with are not very nice to them because they are mortals and they think less of them. And so then June is kind of antagonizing or kind of pushing the buttons of this one prince. His name is Carden. He has a group of friends that are bound to kind of make June and her life miserable, but June's twin sister Taryn is like, we shouldn't be doing that. We are mortals here. We should know our place, blah, blah, blah. And then we have Vivian, who is half fae and then half human, and is Maddock's true child, I guess you would say, and she has magical powers. So basically what I've learned so far is that June wants to kind of find her own way within this world. I think the thing that gets me about this book is that Maddock murders her parents, right? But she is not eager to like leave the fairy world. If it was me, I'd be like trying to get out of there. I'd be like, this is unsafe. I don't want to live with a murderer. But she's like, yeah, he may have killed my parents, but I'm kind of weirdly okay with it. I guess that they don't want to leave the land of Fae because they don't know how to just like be in the land of like humans and mortals, so that they kind of want to stay. But then we have the sister Vivian that's just like, I don't give a fuck either way. I don't want to be here. She kind of does want to go back to the land of all the humans. But the plot so far is that we have June and she strikes a deal with one of the prince of the fairy land. He is what everyone is assuming, like the crown prince. I guess in the Fae, you don't become king in like birthright order. You kind of like the current king kind of picks you if you're one of his children. We have his child Dane, who everyone thinks is going to be coronated as the new king. And so Dane reaches out to June and being like, hey, I want you to spy for my court, so when I become king, like, you know, you get some power along with it. You kind of like the master of spies. She just is like, yep, I want that. I want that. That is how I'm going to get power, and that is how I'm going to make myself kind of like an equal in the fairy world. But she also strikes up a little bit of a romance with this other fae named Locke. And I get this is called The Cruel Prince, but I feel like there's a romance coming along here, and I can't quite pinpoint who the romance is going to be with. Is it going to be with Dane? Is it going to be with this Locke, this random fairy that she's kind of like making out with or kind of hooking up with on the side? Or is it going to be with Prince Corden that she like doesn't like? Halfway through it, if it were me, I'd be like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I don't want to stay with all these fairies that hate me and like with this man that killed my parents. I'd be like, I'm trying to escape any way I can. or I'll die trying. But like June is not, and Taryn is not, and Vivi is not. So I guess that's that. But the other thing that's kind of getting me is that our girl June did one of the most asinine things just now. The second she did it, she was like, oh, I regret my decision. I regret it. I now understand why I shouldn't have done that. And I'm just like, girl, did you not think before you like plotted this through in your head? I feel like I am halfway in with not a lot of like actions that are driving the story forward. Like I can kind of see where we're going. I don't mind the story. It's reading very fast. I don't mind it right now. I know I'm saying a lot of negative things, but like what I will say is good is that I like Holly Black's writing. This is the first Holly Black book that I've ever read. And for a YA book, I think that she's doing like a really good job at writing this, and it's not like cringeworthy at all. I feel like the next like 150 pages or so that I have to read are gonna be very telling as to whether or not I will like this book. I hope this book isn't the one that's just gonna make me like hate this video, because I had such a good experience reading Iron Widow and Fangirl that I was just like, oh yeah, The Cruel Prince, I'm gonna love this. I'm like in my YA era again, but like it's just like, where's the plot going kind of? I don't hate it. I'm saying a lot of negative things, but like I don't hate it. It's sitting at a 4-star for me, but the next 50% is gonna be very telling on whether this is a 3-star or whether this is a 4-star book or 5-star. I don't know. We're gonna see where this is going. So yeah, let me keep reading and then I'll update you once I am done with this book. Hello, ladies and gents. I just want to give you an update on this book. I finished The Cruel Prince last night, and let me tell you, that ending had me gagged. I did not see that coming for some reason. I am debating whether to give this book 4 stars or whether to give it 3 stars, because I will say, our main character, Jude, she is a chaotic, messy person. Jude strikes up this love-hate kind of situationship with Prince Carden. He has a team of like really mean people that kind of picks on her in school and stuff. And so what we really have here is Jude trying to con her way into belonging to the Fae. There is the Fae king, his name is King Eldred, who is going to abdicate his throne, and one of his kids are going to take his place. And we have Jude, who decides to become a spy for Prince Dane. He kind of reaches out to her, say, hey, like, spy for me. And through that, we have a lot of chaos once the King Eldred decides to abdicate the throne of which child is going to take over and sit on the throne. So we have a lot of plot, a lot of intrigue going on here. I did not see the ending of this book coming. It had me gagged. Jude really is the most chaotic person in this book, but I love her. I thank you, Jude, for being so chaotic and making some really bad decisions. You know, that's why I want to say, like, I'm probably gonna give it 3 stars because of just the asinine thinking that's coming from Jude. I kept thinking like this would be a lot better if Jude was like in her mid-20s instead of being a teenager, because then her frontal lobe would be fully developed and she would make decisions while like thinking ahead and kind of plotting ahead, but she was kind of like making decisions that are coming out of her butt and she's like kind of flowing with it. She really fails to think ahead a lot of the time, and sometimes when she feels like, oh, I've got it all figured out, I got everyone who's plotting and intrigue, and her father and like his plotting, he's a war general, she's like, oh, I got it, I understand what he's doing. And then other people within court, when she's like, oh my god, I know what they're doing, I figured out the plot. Most of the time she's wrong, but she's able to get one step ahead of them with that ending. So I think I will probably continue on with this book series because I want to know how this ends up. I will say, the other thing about this book that kind of just I didn't really understand or I didn't really get is because the way that this is sold to me is that it is a love story between Jude and Prince Carden, the one who's like picking on her the entire time while they're in school. Their romance felt kind of rushed towards the ending. Like they had very minimal interaction throughout this entire book up until maybe like the 30% mark of it. Then they started to have like more interaction. It just kind of felt like out of nowhere where he professed his feelings for Jude and she like, you know, reciprocated those feelings. But at the same time, I'm like, girl, you spent most of this book hating him. I don't understand why all of a sudden you're like, yes, I want to kiss him, I want to make out with him, yes, I want to be with him. So like that just had me like, what? Say that again? It's probably gonna sit at a 3 stars, or maybe it's a 4 star. I don't really know. I think I'm just needing to marinate on it a little bit. Yes, why don't I go ahead and do that, and then I'll come back and give you my final wrap up. I am looking a little bit ugly and disheveled. I have not washed my hair in 4 days. I haven't washed my face. I need to get it together. I just rolled out of bed because today is a working day and I wanted to give you guys this update before I started my job and stuff. So let me go ahead and do that. And then we'll come back and I'll give you guys a final wrap up of this vlog. Okay guys, I have taken a shower. I have fixed my hair and curled it a bit here. So I'm here to give you guys a final wrap up. I started off this vlog reading Iron Widow and I ended up giving that 4 stars. Iron Widow is set in this Asian inspired world where people get into these like transformer like machines to go off to war, and we have our main character Zetian, who is a woman, and our main male characters here, I forget his name, is it Yishi and then Lee Shimin, and it's kind of a polyamorous story, but they're also trying to figure out what's going on with this war. Why are women being treated the way that they are? I ended up giving this book 4 stars, and I think what really drove me to giving this book 4 stars is because I was reading it while I was moving out all of my stuff from my ex-boyfriend's apartment that we shared together. And so while I was moving out, I was really inhabiting Zetian, being like, I don't give a fuck about this man anymore. I will be taking what I want and getting my ass out of here. I'll be taking everything that I bought. I'm leaving this man for broke. I'm leaving this man with nothing. So Zetian, I really empowered her and inhabited her while I was trying to move out of the apartment I shared with my ex-boyfriend. So that is why that book got 4 stars. I think it was just like the right book at the right time in my life, where I was like, you know what? I can be badass. I will get what I want here. The ending of Iron Widow kind of left me a little bit shook. I didn't see it coming. I really didn't. Again, because I had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life that I was just reading for the pure enjoyment of it. And now that I have read it, I'm really excited for the second book to come out. I don't know when that's going to come out, or if it's anytime soon actually, but I'm excited and I will be continuing on with that series. The next book that I read is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This is a reread for me. I read it back when it first came out. I think this came out in either 2015 or 2016, but I read it when it first came out. And when I read it then, it was a 5-star book for me, and that was 10 years ago. So I decided to pick this one up because I kind of knew that I was gonna maybe like this, but it's been 10 years. I'm older now, and I wanted to see if this is something that would still be relatable for me, and I found that it was. I gave this book 5 stars again. I just really liked how anyone could pick up this book and find something relatable to it. For me personally, it was more so like the relationship between Kath and Ren, but I really liked that how my older sister and I could really find a lot to relate to in this book. You know, we were very much like the characters in this book. I also hated my college experience, and Kath really started out her college experience that way. I just can't speak highly enough about this book and how much I love it, and I'm so thankful that Rainbow Rowell wrote this. I love it. This is something that I'm so happy to own. I'm so happy to own the 10th anniversary edition of this. I think that this is going to be a book that I pick up and reread now and again, just because of how much I love it and how much it just brings me back to like my time in college and who I was as an early 20-something-year-old person. And the next book I read is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Now, this is a book that I knew very little of when I bought it. I kind of bought it on a whim because it's really gorgeous. This book, I think I decided to give it 4 stars because that ending was really clutch for me. I think around the middle of it, I just kind of got a little bit like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're being far too chaotic for me. You're making decisions without thinking it through and thinking about the ramifications of those decisions. I'm gonna give it 4 stars because of that ending, and I want to continue the series because I want to see what happens between Jude and Cardan, the prince, the cruel prince, so we may call him, that she is now entered a relationship with. Or that romantic relationship kind of felt like it came out of nowhere, really. I don't really like vibe with stories of like enemies to lovers. It wasn't even like they became lovers towards us. It was more like, we like each other, but I don't know what to do with that information now. This whole experiment was pretty much a win. I don't know if it was because I picked up really good books that I would have liked, or if it's because I'm really in my YA renaissance era. I might continue reading YA and giving it a chance and continue to like go along with this journey because I liked all the books that I picked up here. That is my complete wrap up of this video. I am so glad that I did this vlog because I found some of my fave books here. I mean, Fangirl, I cemented that as an all-time fave book. If you like this video, please subscribe, please leave a comment. I love interacting with people who have been leaving comments on my channel lately, and please give this a like. Also, please follow me on Goodreads and Instagram. Those links are below for you. Stay tuned to next week's video. Thank you for watching and have a good day. Bye!